Okay, I'm recording this so students watching the online class can see it too. We are in week 3. So week 3 means you should be done with Windows 10. You should be done with the first, and when I say done with Windows 10, I mean inside Windows 10, you have an assessment. That should be done. I don't care if you do the training. Do it, don't do it. Take the assessment. If you can't pass it, go back and do the training. You can take the assessment as many times as you like, and it'll keep your highest score. You could also save it. And if the save feature is not working, let me know. I'll turn it on. But have I turned it on here? Is it not saving? It saves. Good. So week 3, you should be done with Windows. And you should be done with the assessments in here. Word Chapter 1 and Word Chapter 2. Okay? Those two deals. And you should also be done under exams. Did you ask if I'm serious?
No.
No. Oh, I was just curious because I feel like I'm a little bit too serious right now for some reason. I don't know why. I was trying to be funny when the counselor was in, but I think I came off as just a little too intense. Arr! You need a counselor. Chapter 1, 2, and 3 quiz. You should be done with that by the end of this week. Okay? And usually that entails reading the textbook. You could find the textbook under course materials. Textbook, e-textbook. You just want to browse through it. Just between you and me, the textbook seems like kind of fluffy, but at the same time, it has good information. So it's good to flip through it and read what you don't understand. But when it's like technology is pervasive throughout society, you need to know how to use computers to get a good job. All of you should already know that, right? So that stuff just whoosh, turn the page. But when it starts talking about binary or something, like stop and read that. And like, oh yeah, I thought I was talking about binary. Let me see what that says. So done with this one, done with 2 assessments from here, done with the exams for the 3 chapters. And then in Blackboard, under assignments, week 1, week 2, and week 3 should all be finished by the end of this week. And these all have videos. Some of the videos are a little bit dated. If what I show you in a video isn't the way the website looks now, just try to figure it out to the best of your ability. And if you can't figure it out, let me know. Maybe I'll make a new video for any of them. In this week, you have to write a paper. It's a 1-page paper. I recommend writing it in Google Documents and then sending me the links. What that will look like is you'll go into Google Drive. So sign into Google, go to Google Drive, and then choose New, Google Doc. You'll give it a name. Probably create it in a folder, right? Like you'll create a folder that's Fresno City College, create a folder that's Fall 2016, create a folder that's cit15, nesting folders to organize your stuff. And then inside cit15, yeah, week 1 through 3 paper. I don't think you need more subfolders, might just get a little busy. So you'll create it, you'll give it a name. I'm going to call mine delete me because I'm going to delete this file. And then you'll just write 1 page. If you're not a good writer, you can come over here and go to double. And that's 2 lines for, right, double space or whatever. But your reflection paper is in a conversational tone just to get you familiar with writing. Do fix spelling errors. Do try to write in sentences which are complete sentences. What is a complete sentence? Is I ran. I ran. How did you get here? I ran. What country might develop a nuclear bomb soon? Iran. Can a complete sentence be I ran, like I ran fast? Does it need?
No.
I don't know. I didn't study English, but all you need is a subject and a verb for a complete sentence. I'm getting a nodding head from somebody who looks like they know what they're talking about. You know, you want to try to not write like I always talk, or sometimes talk. That's better. Which is like colloquial, or it's a little bit professional. Keep it, you know, like a nice tone, but also just casual. So don't sweat about it. But hey, this is what I learned this week, these 3 weeks. What might you say? You might say, I learned technology is a tool, and it's a really great question. Do I use it, or does it use me? And to bring some conscious awareness to how I use technology. And I really need to stop texting and driving, because that's pretty dangerous. And that movie woke me up, texting and driving, that AT&T movie that we watched in class, texting and driving. You know? And I also really like the Disconnect movie. Kind of talked about issues of cyberbullying, identity theft, and tangled web you could weave if you're not careful with how you use social media and the internet and these tools. I also learned about binary and how computers run on electricity. And electricity has two basic states, on and off. And because of that, we could create a coding scheme. And just like your porch light on Halloween, is this helpful to anybody? Raise your hand if this is helpful to you. Just like your porch light on Halloween, it could be on or off, come trick or treat or go away. Now a computer is just that multiplied by 5 billion. A whole bunch of light switches we could turn off, and depending upon their configuration of on or off, 1 or 0, it means different things. Right? We have coding schemes to represent what this arrangement of circuits or switches or transistors in various states of on and off represent. So I learned that, and that was pretty cool. I learned about Windows. Right? And I learned some things in that Windows, my IT lab. What else did you learn this week? That's about it, right? First week we did kind of binary and then lab. Second week we did movie and lab. Or no, we did movie and tech as a tool. So you just write that up. And whatever you learn this week will go in there too. So that's what we saw the first week, just a little bit of a review so you can see it. I don't think this comes over. Well, I just kind of went through that. And then second week, the binary stuff. You should look at this, and a lot of this should be pretty familiar to you. We're going to talk about it. But these are some of the takeaways. Stuff we should have already learned, and the stuff we didn't, I'm going to talk about it right now. So circuits and switches, how many people know what that means? How many people don't know what that means? Okay. So the switch is like your porch light. Like, will you do me a favor, sitting against the wall with the baseball cap? Just hit both those switches off. Now hit both those switches on. Switches, thank you. That's it. On, off. That's it. It's a switch. So don't make it more complex. We call that light switch. We already know that. And my analogy is the porch light. On, off. Does that mean anything on Halloween?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Right? And so if we have 2 porch lights, we could do a different coding scheme. If we have 3, we could do 2, 4, 8. 8 different things can be represented by 3 lights. 8 different possible combinations of on or off. So that's where the circuits and switches comes in. And they're also sometimes referred to as transistors. And there's 5 generations of computers. The first generation was a vacuum tube. And that's what this looked like. So this is like something that could be in an on-off state, and it could be checked. Whatever you're doing right now with your computer, this is like the talk day, and I haven't said this until now, but like, let's turn your computer sideways, because otherwise I just feel like I'm hearing clicking as much as and I appreciate your desire to work, I know. But part of this is just hearing me talk about this material, so you have an understanding. So turn them sideways, thank you. And I can see y'all. And then no cell phones either right now. You got a cell phone? No? Oh, cool, man. You're just chilling. I thought you were looking at your cell phone. He's like, not me. So these are about the size of a light bulb. Those are vacuum tubes. That was the first generation of computers. And then we had transistors. And that was like the size of, I don't know. Is there any picture with the comparison. It's like the size of a matchstick. It's like the size of a match.
Can you turn the light off, please?
Yeah, you want to hit the first light switch there? So that's another way to keep, that could be something that's in an on-off state and it could be checked. And it ran a lot cooler than vacuum tubes, which is first generation. So it's all about storing on-off. And then we had third generation, vacuum tube transistors, silicon wafer. And those are silicon wafers. And there's somebody holding one, so you can kind of get a sense. And if you notice, there's like a grid to them. Those are all chips. I'm looking for a bigger image. So you can do search tools up here. You can do size, and you can say large. Now I have large images, so here's a large image. Now I could view that image, and I've got a big one. So this is on one of those wafers, and they're thin, like thinner than a dime, way thinner than a quarter. Well, what's up?
Yeah, I have a question about the size of the
Size of your pinky,
yeah, I know.
fingernail.
Actually, does this like inside of it? Are we gonna like going to have like 1 nanometer processor like in the future?
What are they at now? 4?
4G, I think. Or no, 8.
8?
Yeah.
So I think they're reaching the threshold of
They would just
where you get interference and you can't maintain it. And some of the interesting things they're looking at now are like using atoms and things. I mean, like at the molecular level, so slightly different than silicon. I don't know. And organic material. So I don't know. So here they would cut these out, and those would be a chip that you'd put in, like that's your chip. And inside there could be like 5 billion circuits that could be in an on-off state that could be checked. Like if you think about your flash drive, Amazon, flash drive. So here is a 64 gigabyte flash drive. How many zeros and ones are in 64 gigabytes?
1 0 0 or 1 1
Gigabyte to, like that's a lot. 5.12 plus 11 zeros.
So more than a billion.
You want to figure it out? All right, so here we go. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, it's a trillion.
Gigabyte. So let me bring up a picture for you. We're done with week 1. Measuring. Here we go. Right there. So there's 1 bit. A bit stands for binary digit. Why do they call it binary? Digit. Binary, bi means 2, bicycle, biplane. And binary digit, right? It's 0 or 1. What does the 0 or 1 represent?
On and off.
On and off. And why does it represent that? Because electricity, circuit, switches, right? And they could be in some state of on or off. So we have binary digits. So we could say on or off. And we could say that. And we could write that when we're writing it. Or we could just write 1, 0, 0, 1 to represent which circuit's in which state. So we have a binary digit. And then we abbreviate that binary digit, the word, to bit. So we abbreviate the word binary digit to bit. So you could say your porch light is 1 bit of information on Halloween, right? It's 1 switch that could either be 0 or 1, one of those 2 states. So we have a binary digit, and then when we have 8 bits, we call that a byte. And it has a special word for it because originally 8 bits was kind of like the amount of memory that a computer could process and handle at a time. So we had 8 bits and we called that a byte. And then if we had 1,000 bytes, we called it a kilobyte. If we had 1,000 kilobytes, we called it a megabyte. If we had 1,000 megabytes, we called it a gigabyte. Now, technically speaking, it's 1,024 bytes would be a kilobyte. It kind of gets difficult. It's just easier to round to 1,000. Why is it 1,024? Because everything is a multiple of 2 to some power in computers. If we have one porch light, that's 2 to the power of 1. And so the formula I'm using here, we touched on it briefly. One porch light, 2 to the power of 1. I could represent two things: come trick or treat or go away. Two porch lights, 2 to the power of n. I could represent, have a coding scheme, which represents 4 things. Right? And then if I had 8 porch lights or 8 switches, circuits, whatever, transistors, vacuum tubes, I could represent 256 things. Or if I had 9, 512, or 10, 1,024. So everything's multiple of 2s when we are dealing with computers. So normally that's 1,024, but I'm just rounding it. So if I have a 64 gigabyte drive, I have 64,000 megabytes, 64 million kilobytes, 64 billion bytes. So 64 billion times 8 is like 240, like 64 times 8 is like 32, 32 plus 480, it's like 5 point something trillion.